The Hiraeth Environ is a vast, haphazard bunch of systems, stars, and planets with different biomes, categorized by their similarities to neighboring planets and solar systems. Each region is separated into clusters, shaping the ethnic, cultural, and religious image of the people living in it. The Goldilocks cluster, located near the westward and southwest fringes of the Dominion, the Goldilocks cluster houses much of Hagen proper and the Humanics. Vast plains and forests can be typically found in the planets within the cluster, the perfect Terran atmosphere for any Hiraethan to live in. With just the right temperature and air quality, most feeder worlds can be found here, producing much of the food that is distributed and traded throughout the rest of the Dominion and its colonies. Fine forests and golden plains of wheat is what you can expect in the Goldilocks cluster. The Bend is a buffer subcluster, bordering the states of Marixalar, Kibal, Hinterbrug, Oberzoll, and Bend proper. The Bend consists of desolate mountains crisscrossing the interior, whilst the south goes down with dour valleys which open up to the orange grasslands. Dotted with old fortresses, cairns, and border stones attesting to the activities of the early kingdoms that inhabit it, a traditional no-man's land between the fiefs inhabiting nearby. The Firindag Mounts is a mountainous subcluster of the Bend, where the Malmedians live. A lifeless mountain range, much like the Krog, rough and inhospitable. The upper peaks are covered in ice and eternal snowstorms, featuring vast cliffs, ravines, and rock formations sculpted by the eastern winds. Cold and dry due to its high altitudes, and sprouting with extremist flora and bits of growth down the inky black lower slopes, shadowed by the grand mountaintops. This region is dominated by large crypts and abandoned rock cities, complex arrays of buildings carved into the undersides of cliffs, with nothing inhabiting it but dry and bitter air. Apart from the pilgrims and scavengers who live at the dark abyss of these mega-necropolises, the Firindag supports no life apart from its own. The Orange Grasslands, a wide western grasslands region shared between the Hegenic, Orange, and Langlian domains. Rolling hills and plains of lush orange-like grass. Much of this beauty remains unsullied and unoccupied, with sparse port cities and trade routes available. The glaring lack of human presence and population is an effect of the migration up north to the megalopolis of Hausenhog and down southeast to the orange capital of New Orange, and the destructive wars of Lord Jacobus the Roger IV some decades before. The Two Wields is a wild and forested upland region spread throughout Truid proper and Langley. Housing the millennia-old clan families and chivalric ducal houses of the two polities, the Weald has provided habitable ground for these kingdoms to grow and conquer, with various age-old planet cities, prehistoric landmarks, and ruins dotted throughout the cluster. The Crimson Fringe, the red-stricken swath of Truid, covered in mysterious red mist that seems to never fade away. Rolling forests of vermilion and opal-colored waters. Everything seems to be stained with red, although the spiny trees and lumbering shadows of unknown origin surely are a major difference than the other environ. Home to countless rabid tribesmen, violent spirits of yore, and obscure cults that make themselves home upon the red giants of the fringe. The Red Heart, the deepest part of the Tridish forest, the sickly breathing and beating heart of the misty woodland hypercluster. The red mist seems to infect the very surroundings itself, with a heavy, sickly blood-red color. It fills the rainforest with a stain much more stronger than the fringes. As if almost stuck between twilight, it rarely gets any sunlight, which leaves to much undergrowth of the rainforest floor. Blood-red creeks and tributaries crisscross the forest like a vein. Many still question the existence of life in this mostly undiscovered cluster of the galaxy. Though it is traditionally taboo to enter the deep, few oral sources surviving tell. The Corlands, a sprawling urban jungle. The Corlands is situated in the center of the Dominion, acting as the new capital region, which houses the most important legislative and administrative complexes. Lands rolling with port cities, vast trade hubs filled to the brim with garish and gaudy glamour, the finest silk, wine, and trinkets all sold to the highest bidder, urbanite planets and the like. The Corlands is the crossroads of trade and treasure, the gateway to both the east and the west, and the beating heart of the Dominion. The Corlands has little to no trace of natural life left, being snuffed out during the industrialization of the cluster. Brimming with a suffocating cosmopolitan air, the Corlands is a horrid and debauched place for any province-born Hiraethan, foreign to the urban culture. Vignasponti's Pale, a subtropical cluster much like the Goldilocks cluster, it is a habitable cluster. Near the outskirts of the Corlands and the Orange Grasslands, it acts as the first gateway to the heart of the Dominion from the east. The first ever conquered state of Falkovrax during his eastward campaign, it is home to the veritable republics and peasant cliques that dot the region. Most prominent among them is the Leagues of Leiningen. The cluster is named after Testudo Vignasponti, first regal governor of what is to be the Pale. He is also the first man to give battle to the eastwarders during the campaign. Northeast of the region is unoccupied. With sparse traces of human activity, only trade routes incoming from the east and outgoing from the west are present beyond the Pale. Mild Mediterranean climate dominates the Pale.